Have you ever wondered about the future? What will happen to our world, to our cities, to us? The Bible is full of prophecies. These are glimpses into the future. They offer hope and guidance. Today, we journey into one such prophecy. We're diving into the book of Zechariah. This book is full of vivid imagery. It speaks of God's power and love. We'll uncover its message together. Zechariah lived during a turbulent time. The Israelites had returned from exile, but their homeland was in ruins. They needed hope. God chose Zechariah to deliver a message. It was a message of hope, a message of restoration, a message of a future filled with God's presence. Chapter 14 of Zechariah is particularly striking. It speaks of a day unlike any other, a day when God's power will be fully revealed. We'll unpack its verses, we'll explore its symbolism, and we'll discover its relevance for us today. Zechariah doesn't sugarcoat the future. He doesn't offer easy promises. Instead, he paints a picture of hardship. He speaks of a day of reckoning. This is the day of the Lord. It's a day when God's justice prevails. It's a day when the wicked are held accountable. It's a day that will shake the very foundations of the earth. Zechariah focuses on Jerusalem. This city, so precious to God, will face a terrifying siege. Armies will gather against it. What are their intentions? Plunder and destruction. The inhabitants will experience unimaginable suffering. Their possessions will be stolen. Their homes will be ransacked. Their safety, their very lives will hang in the balance. Imagine the scene. Chaos and terror grip the city. Families are torn apart. Half of the population is forced into exile. The enemy seems unstoppable. But even in this darkness, a glimmer of hope remains. Zechariah tells us that not all will be lost. A remnant will survive. God will not abandon his people entirely. Just when all hope seems lost, Zechariah introduces a dramatic shift. He reveals God's response to this crisis. God will not stand idly by. He will personally intervene. He will engage in battle against the enemies of his people. The God of Israel is not a distant deity. He is a God of action. The battlefield is significant. It's the Mount of Olives, a place familiar to anyone who knows the Gospels. This is where Jesus wept over Jerusalem. But Zechariah describes an event even more dramatic. As God descends, the very mountain splits in two. A massive earthquake rips through the earth. This is a display of raw power. This cataclysmic event is not just for show. The split mountain serves a purpose. It creates a pathway, a valley of escape for the beleaguered inhabitants of Jerusalem. Imagine the scene, panic and chaos as the earth trembles. But amidst the terror, a way out. God himself provides refuge for those who trust in him. Zechariah describes a day unlike any other. He speaks of a day when the normal rules of nature are suspended. It's a day shrouded in mystery. This is not just a day of 24 hours. It's a day known only to the Lord. A day when time itself seems to stand still. The prophet tells us that on this day there will be no ordinary cycle of day and night. The sun and moon will not govern the light. Yet there will be light. This light is not of this world. It's a supernatural light, emanating from God himself. It's a light that symbolizes hope, even in the darkest of times. But the wonders of this day don't stop there. Zechariah describes another extraordinary event. Living water will flow from Jerusalem. Imagine the scene: crystal clear water, pure and life-giving, springing forth from the heart of the city. This water represents God's blessing. This water doesn't just stay in Jerusalem, it flows outward, reaching even the most desolate places. It flows east to the Dead Sea, a place of barrenness. It flows west to the Mediterranean. This symbolizes the transformative power of God's grace. It has the power to bring life to even the most lifeless places. Zechariah's prophecy doesn't just focus on Jerusalem, it encompasses the surrounding land as well. This land, once fertile and prosperous, has suffered. It bears the scars of war and neglect. But you see, God's power is about to bring about a radical change. The prophet describes a leveling of the landscape. Mountains and valleys will be smoothed out. While the surrounding land is transformed into a plain, Jerusalem itself experiences a different fate. Instead of being leveled, it's lifted up. Imagine the scene. The city, once vulnerable, now stands as a beacon of hope, towering above the surrounding plain. This is a symbol of God's protection. What happens to those who oppose Jerusalem? Those who sought to destroy God's chosen city? Zechariah doesn't shy away from describing their fate. A plague will strike them. A plague so swift and devastating that it will leave them helpless. Their bodies will rot while they are still alive. In stark contrast to the enemy's demise, Judah, representing the faithful remnant of God's people, will experience victory. This victory won't be achieved through their own strength. It will be a divine victory, a testament to God's power to deliver His people. Imagine a world transformed. The battles are over, peace reigns, and people from every corner of the globe stream towards a single destination, Jerusalem. This is the vision Zechariah paints in the final verses of chapter 14. He speaks of a time when all nations will come to acknowledge the one true God. These pilgrims aren't coming to wage war. They aren't coming to conquer. They are coming to worship. They are coming to celebrate the Feast of Tabernacles. This feast, a time for remembering God's faithfulness in the wilderness, takes on a whole new meaning. It becomes a symbol of global unity, a celebration of God's victory over evil. Zechariah doesn't shy away from the consequences of rejecting God. He states clearly that those nations who choose not to participate in this pilgrimage of worship will face judgment. Their punishment? No rain. In a world dependent on agriculture, this is a serious consequence. It's a stark reminder that there can be no true prosperity without acknowledging the source of all blessings. But the transformation goes even deeper than that. Zechariah describes a world where holiness permeates every aspect of life. Even everyday objects become sacred. He speaks of bells on horses being inscribed with "Holy to the Lord." He speaks of cooking pots in homes becoming as sacred as the bowls used in the temple. Holiness is no longer confined to a specific place or time, it's everywhere. Zechariah's prophecy isn't just an ancient text, it's a beacon of hope, a message that echoes through the ages. It reminds us that even in the darkest of times, God is at work. He sees our suffering, He hears our cries, and He promises to make all things new. This hope isn't just for a select few, it's for all people from all nations who choose to turn to God. It's a hope that transcends our earthly struggles and points us towards a future filled with peace, unity, and unimaginable blessings. The book of Zechariah doesn't shy away from the reality of God's judgment. It speaks plainly about the consequences of rejecting His love and rebelling against His will. But even in judgment, we see God's mercy. He always provides a way back to Himself. The choice is ours. Will we cling to our own way, or will we surrender to the one who offers true freedom and lasting peace? Zechariah's message is clear. God's judgment is real, but so is His mercy. He desires that all would turn to Him and live. Perhaps the most inspiring aspect of Zechariah's prophecy is the vision of a world transformed by God's presence. A world where every aspect of life, from the mundane to the magnificent, is touched by holiness. A world where people from all walks of life, from all corners of the globe, come together in unity and worship. This vision isn't just a distant dream, it's a promise. And it's a promise that starts to become a reality in the lives of those who choose to follow Jesus today. When we surrender our hearts to Him, we invite His transforming power into every corner of our being. Zechariah's message is as relevant today as it was centuries ago. It's a call to action, an invitation to live in the light of God's promises, even when the world around us seems dark and uncertain. It's a reminder that our hope is not found in fleeting circumstances but in the unchanging character of our faithful God. So, let's live each day with courage and anticipation, knowing that God is at work, that His plans will prevail, and that His kingdom is coming. And let's share this hope with a world desperately in need of its light.